The latest on the dock workers strike, now in its second day. Tens of thousands of dock workers at ports along the east and Gulf Coast continue to walk the picket lines. Here in our area, the panic buying among consumers has now started. At the Costco in Teterboro, people could be seen stocking up on essentials over fears that the strike could have impacts on our supply chain. New Jersey reporter Anthony Johnson is live at the Port of Elizabeth with the very latest. Anthony.
What a surprise.
Yeah, ladies, you can see the dock workers are still behind me. They are still standing their ground. At this point in time, no new word on any talks between management and the union. But the union workers say they're going to be out here as long as it takes so they can get a fair contract. Now, you talked about the people going to the store, customers going to the store. A lot of people online very early this morning before that Costco actually opened. Of course, this is the Jewish high holy days, so a lot of those folks were going shopping because of that one fact. But a lot of people also said they're getting prepared for the possibility that supplies will come up short. Long lines at one of the local big retailers may be the result of a frenzy of shoppers worried about supply shortages.
Have y'all that have shopped like in the last couple of days seen this happen? Like I haven't been to the grocery store in a while.
Especially if the dock workers' strike lasts a long time.
We are scared because we don't know. It's just like going over with COVID again. People rushing the stores, everybody's panicking, and that's why I'm here today.
I came in at 9:30. I was waiting online because I know people panic every time they hear something.
Some shoppers are not panic shopping, but when you mix in the fact that the Jewish high holy days are here, the crowds are unusually
I don't know what
large.
that has to do with it. But
I didn't come here because of the strike. I just came here because I legit, every month I come to Costco, but now there's people panic shopping.
In the meantime, the striking longshoremen are manning the picket lines for a second day in a row. It's estimated the U.S. economy is losing billions each day.
Jesus.
The head of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association says this strike could hit small businesses in the state hard and fast.
The small business, they could get shut down quickly because they are relying upon those things coming in on a regular basis to actually fund 100%.
That's what happened for COVID, right? How many of you guys knew a local store or something that shut down during COVID?
To build 100% of what they're putting out by way of a product.
This graph from the New York Waterfront Commission from 2019 to 2020 shows the salaries of dock workers in our region, with some making hefty salaries. But workers say the numbers don't reflect the dangers of the job or hefty salary.
I feel like it's not about the dangers of the job. I mean, yeah, of course that's a factor. But a more important factor is the amount of hours worked. How much are they making per hour?
But workers say the numbers don't reflect the dangers of the job or take into account their work during COVID. A technology expert says if the walkout persists, some popular holiday presents may not be in stock because of a semiconductor shortage.
Christmas is canceled,
Many of those
guys.
are shipped from overseas.
This will determine whether or not there's a good holiday and a strong economy or a recession and Scrooge coming along and holding back the gifts that consumers love.
And you can see how the messaging a lot with this with this news article is about it's primarily about the workers and how the workers will negatively impact individual people's lives and how much money the workers are making. So an average person would watch this and think to themselves, these workers are overpaid assholes and they're trying to take away Christmas.
Yeah, once again, you saw that graph there showing the salaries of dock workers here in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. But that does not reflect dock workers in other places. Remember, this strike goes all the way from Maine down to Texas. And hearing from the ILA yesterday, they say some of their workers in some of those other ports make just over the minimum wage. So a fair contract is vital for them and their families. That is the latest live from Elizabeth. Eyewitness News.
Thank you.
True. Yeah, very true. Yeah, there you go, guys. And just another day? Yeah, I guess so. And post-worker strike turns violent. What is this?
We start the top of the hour this morning with a Fox 5 News alert. Thousands of dock workers are on strike, causing ports across the U.S. to close.
Yeah, in total, 36 ports shutting down, including the port of Baltimore. Melanie Allenwick is there right now live, and she appears to be telling us since this morning that it's been heating up there, and it hasn't been a pleasant sight for many folks, especially the drivers coming in.
I personally think that the dock workers, this, in my opinion, should be a black pill for anybody who thinks that we have two political parties. We have one economic party, and I think that that economic party owns places like Fox, and I think they also own places like you just saw with ABC. And so whenever something comes in and it actually has a possibility of affecting their money in a tangible way, all of these different stations are reporting on it in a way that is, in my opinion, incomplete. They're reporting on this in a way that is deliberately created in order to make the port workers seem like they are the ones in the wrong. With the bias? Yeah. And it's a very, and here's the thing, is it's a very, very soft bias, but that's why they're the mainstream news. It's because they're the best at it. So, like, as soon as you see it and you start looking for it, it's easy to find, but it can trick you a lot. U.S. has a very strong anti-union streak. Well, one of the reasons for that is because the mainstream media is owned by people who have a vested interest in this strike ending.
That's right. So for some people, I think it might have been a bit of a surprise. However, this has been in the news that it could be happening for a few weeks now. So you can see the picket lines behind me here. And this is the main entrance to the Port of Baltimore, the Dundalk Terminal. And you'll see they're walking around the picket lines in circles. Now, Baltimore police were here earlier reminding the picketers that they cannot block the entrance to the port. The longshoremen walked off the job at 12:01 a.m. There was confusion and anger as picketers initially tried to stop trucks from entering, and it did turn violent.
Uh-oh.
I come here for 7 years. I pull the trash and the debris out of here for the Port of Baltimore, and the officer told me to come back and make go in there to get out of my way, and they attacked me and broke the windshield and lacerated my face. Look at it.
Now, we don't know exactly what happened.
Damn.
The union members said the truck hit one of the picketers as they swarmed around it. We did see an ambulance come to assist, and we know that that gentleman did speak with police officers. Again, we'll let the authorities sort out exactly what happened there. Now, 45 members of the International Longshoremen's Association, I'm sorry, 45,000 members. That's a big difference in a number, isn't it?
And you see about how the reporting for this, it's not that the reporting is a lie. It's that it emphasizes the faults that they're making, because like it's indefensible to block the trucks. They shouldn't be allowed to block the trucks. They're totally wrong for blocking the trucks. Absolutely true. But the problem is that the faults of one group are being reported and the faults of the other group are not. Yeah, half-truths? Yeah, exactly. It's a deliberate omission. Yeah, it's very, it's gentle thought manipulation. Exactly.
They have all been asking for a 77% pay increase over 6 years and a ban on automation at their ports, a threat to their jobs, they say. Now, most retailers stocked up on goods prior to the strike, but if it lasts more than a few weeks, supply chain experts say it's consumers who are going to feel the direct impact of higher prices and product shortages, especially for things like fresh fruit, coffee, and cars. The U.S. Marine Alliance, which represents the ports, said it offered 50% pay increases and an agreement to keep current limits on automation, in addition to increased contributions to the retirement plans. But apparently that was not acceptable to the union members. We don't know what...
People say 77 pay increase is greedy. So ask yourself the question, if a company's making 77% more profit, do you think the company has... Like, do you think the company should pay the employees more money? I feel like they should. I mean, should it be 1-to-1? Maybe, maybe not, right? But I could see very easily people feeling like, and put yourself in their shoes, right? You're working at the dock 70 hours a week, The company is reporting record profits because of the work that you're doing that is putting irreversible damage on your body, and you're not getting a pay raise other than the privilege to be able to work overtime. Of course they're mad. Obviously. Fucking obviously they're mad. Yes, just quit if they don't like it. Well, that's kind of what they're doing right now, right? I mean, like, I don't think that it's that binary. So, like, if you don't like a job, like, everybody here has negotiated a salary, right? I mean, like, or negotiated any sort of payment. Like, what is the logic here that you can't negotiate a payment at all? Of course you can.
The next steps are in terms of the negotiations. Now, we do want to let you know that West Coast ports do remain open. They are a different union and working under a different contract, and many supply chain leaders have rerouted some of their goods and supplies. But on the East Coast, it's going to have to be a wait-and-see situation as to how directly everyone is impacted. I want to let you know that, again, we are going to try to get an interview with one of the local union leaders here as soon as we sign off, and if we get anything from their point of view, we'll be sure to bring it to you.
All right, thank you so much, Mel. Certainly a lot
and
going
so
on.
you guys see how, and I could probably pull up another news excerpt of, like, you know, them discussing this topic, and it will probably say and be the same thing, where it's basically the focus is entirely on the bad actions of the union workers. And it has nothing to do with, like, what they're protesting about and, like, what's happening. It's greedy as fuck. And you see, right? So isn't it interesting that this graph is being shown with the amount of money that people are making, and it doesn't show the amount of profits the company is making? And so, yeah. Poor versus poor, what the elite want. This is good that some people are doing it. Don't pit consumers against workers in an attempt to distract from corporations paying pennies. Without the working class, there would be no them. I'm going to be honest, guys. I scrolled down expecting to find a lot of people hating on these dock workers. This is a very reassuring thing. I'm really glad to see comments like this and people not being so easily baited. Maybe I'll end up being wrong about this. I hope I will be. It's honestly shocking. I'm very surprised. You know, we'll see how long it lasts, but it's great to see this. But this is YouTube and not the press like newspapers. Yeah, but this is what the public is thinking, right? This is what, yeah, turn out 50% off are crazy. Of course, there's going to be some people disagreeing too. Obviously, union leader makes $1 million dollars a year, not a yacht. Okay, yeah, this is more of what I was expecting, right? They're so greedy. What have you done? Shipping CEOs doing several yachts. Yeah, true, good point. $150,000 per year. Holy shit, these guys make plenty. But I respect their strike for demanding more. Yeah, plenty of people with families make 30, 40K. Who feels sorry for them? Certainly not the migrants or the unions. There you go. And so, you know, there were some good comments, and there were some more of the, you know, the comments that I very much expected to see more of, right? I saw a few of these linked to me, and I was going to look at this.
Guys, there's a massive dock worker port strike going on right now that you need to be aware of. So I wanted to have this quick conversation with you just to kind of explain what's happening, guys, so you are aware of what's going on right now. As a consumer, you need to be paying attention. This dock worker strike that's going on right now will affect you if it goes on for more than a week or two. So please make sure you understand what's taking place here. So let's have this quick conversation, guys. The ILA, which is the union that represents the East Coast and Gulf Coast dock workers, is seeking higher wages and a ban on the use of some automated equipment. I'll dig into that a little bit, guys. But they say that the workers deserve to be compensated for the important work that they do to keep America.
I think the idea that they should ban automation is so insanely fucking selfish that I am shocked that more people... I'm shocked that they even thought this was a good idea. Like, basically, you want to make the entire country less efficient so you can keep your job. It's crazy. So fucking selfish. Yeah, you can't stop technology. This will only speed up the transition to automation. It will.
American commerce movement.
Selfish to who? The companies? The country is already efficient. It's selfish to the other people in America. because other people, like, let's say automation, basically the implication is that if a company can produce more products, it can more accurately serve its audience. And it can do so with probably less money, because they wouldn't swap to automation unless automation saved them money. So basically, they're saying that they want the companies to cost more money. And I understand that a lot of people have this idea. This is a very disconnected idea that companies' money and your money are different. Nothing could be further from the truth. The fact is that all of these people, like if you work at a company like this, the odds are you have a 401k. You have money invested into the economy. You have money invested into the stock market. So to act like the money that like these corporations are making is like somehow different than the money that people are making, oftentimes people have their money invested in these corporations. Versus sucking out the 1%? You're not a 1%. You think only 1% of people have a 401k? That's crazy. What do you mean?
And growing. Okay. The dockworker strike began just yesterday, October 1st, and it involves more than 45,000 members of the International Longshoremen's Association. It affects ports. And when I say ports, goods coming into America that are imported, goods that we buy at the retail stores all day, every day, right? So anything that comes into America that's imported in along the East Coast and the Gulf Coast of America from Maine to Texas, right, is going to be affected by that. That means that these dock workers are not doing their job to bring in these goods, and that will affect all of us eventually, right? So the key reasons for this strike that's going on includes basically, like I said, demand for higher wages, job security, and they're concerned about automation replacing workers. Now,
See, like, here's the other thing is that, like, I actually think that if you should pay these guys more money, that's fine. If they want more money, totally justifiable. Like, I think that the, like, kind of like the middle class of America, where, like, these guys are, like, kind of, I mean, if you're making $400,000 a year, right, you're at the upper end of the middle class, to say the least, or 200,000, I mean, but still, right, you're making a lot of money. I think that like people in the middle class and like working class have like a massive like crab mentality, where when they see one group of people that are trying to fight for higher wages and fight for what they perceive to be like fair representation or anything like that, those people are they're like jealous and they're mad because they're like, well, I'm not getting paid this much money. Why do you deserve to get paid that much money? When the answer, in my opinion, should be, I deserve to get paid this much money too, and so do you. But I think that there's so much, and this is why, like, I feel like this dock worker strike is another really good example of like things that I've said a lot, where I think that people are just so selfish that they'll never actually be able to like affect any sort of real change because they can't stop looking at somebody else who's in the relatively same position that they are and getting mad at them. Increasing wage is reasonable. Banning automation is regressive. I agree with you. And that's the point, right? I think that the banning of automation and them fighting against automation is extremely regressive, and it's also selfish. However, I think the other stuff does make a lot of sense.
It is pushing for some hourly wage increase and greater control over how container royalties are distributed out to workers. So the strike could have major economic implications, guys, especially for supply chains and, of course, for perishable goods. So if the ILA dock worker strike continues, we as Americans may face delays in receiving these essential supplies and goods that we sort of take for granted that show up in the grocery store or at Target or wherever all the time.
And I think also like another part of this that like really hurts is that guy that was like the you know, I think I'm assuming bald guy with like the goatee with like, you know, the white hair. That guy apparently makes like $900,000 or like $800,000 a year or something like that. And it's just really, really bad PR to have somebody talking about how, oh, we're going to cripple the economy, we're going to do this, and then people find out that this guy makes nearly $1 million a year. Right? He's rich as fuck. Yeah, because it basically, like, whenever he says that, what people understand is like, okay, now I'm not going to be able to buy my groceries, or the price of my groceries is going to go up massively. So what? Well, what do you mean, so what? Nobody wants to see somebody who's on a high horse who's making nearly $1 million a year use that high horse to cause them to have to spend more money on produce that they can barely afford in the first place. Like, if you can't, and I'm not, again, I've made it very clear that I agree with the dock workers about this. So I'm not saying that, like, this makes their cause wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's really bad PR. And I think that's undeniable. If you can't see that, I feel like you're so captured by your ideology that you're not thinking about what a normal person would see. Of course a person would see this.
We'll start feeling the pinch here in just a little bit. Not only will it be a lack of those things that get shipped into America, but we may see prices go up as well.
Yeah.
This could have an impact on it.
Of course prices will go up. Somebody says, your take on this is wild. Automation and AI already killed thousands of jobs in the Midwest, and they never came back. There's not an answer for jobs or income when AI takes over. A company does not exist in order to provide you a job. A company exists in order to provide a product to the market. If you think that mandating basically companies keep people on welfare by having regressive jobs that could be replaced by automation, but they artificially handicap themselves by not doing that, if you think that's a good idea, I think you're totally wrong. I think you are absolutely fucking wrong. And I think it is the most regressive thing that you can possibly say. And I feel like if we look at historically, every instance of somebody trying to do what you're saying, every single instance, at the end of the story, they're the bad guy, they were wrong, and they lose. So whether this is the Industrial Revolution, computing, the internet, I feel like those are three really big ones. You're not just wrong, though? You're clueless? Okay. Okay. Hisoka is going to correct me. What do I not understand? You can't use a locomotive. You have to use a horse. Is not a good argument. Yeah. No, we'll listen. We'll listen. All right. That's fine. I think this is, I like this topic a lot. I'll be honest. I really like this topic. So I'm not mad at all. Like, I'm just like, I think you're totally wrong, but I'm not mad. Which topic? About like how automation and like machines are going to replace people. Yeah, automation's taking over because people are lazy and entitled and don't want to work. No, that's not true. I'll give him like maybe one more minute. And then I want to move on. Someone has to program how the robot works, so these dock workers will just get more training on how to work the AI and their jobs won't be taken. No. I think, like, yes, that's probably true to an extent, but to act like you can just retrain a bunch of guys whose job it is to pick up something and put it somewhere else, and then train them into, like, advanced computing and, like, learning how to use an AI tool, you're delusional. It's not going to happen. I typed twice. Okay, well, it got blocked, right? I mean, I don't know what to say. When steam engines were created, the Industrial Revolution made a lot of jobs and created a lot of new ones. This happens for every milestone in human history. Jobs get removed because of technological advancements. I actually think that your argument about the Industrial Revolution is bad. And so the reason why I think that it's bad is that the Industrial Revolution was designed, the Industrial Revolution happened because people wanted to create more products. Whereas automation and AI is being created with the explicit purpose of removing jobs and removing people from the economy. So that's the difference. I see what you're saying, but like basically the Industrial Revolution wanted to produce more. This is not aimed at producing more. It's aimed at producing maybe more, but the primary goal is doing it with less. So that's why I don't think that's a good argument. You removed my reply? Okay, I'm just gonna time you out. Sorry, I don't know what that is. We'll move on. Do you think automation will replace consumers too? I think to an extent it will. Interesting topic there, but yeah, but not really.
inflation, especially like for those perishable goods, you know, things that can't sit. Now, listen, a canned good can sit on the dock for 6 months, but bananas can't do that, right? Vegetables spoil, right? So much of our nation's imports come through this East Coast and Southern ports. Retailers ultimately may experience some shortages as well. These goods that come in through the East Coast and the Gulf could be rerouted to the West Coast ports, right? Or air freight. Some of it, not much of it, right? But these are other options. But of course, what happens when everything that's supposed to come into the East Coast in terms of imports get rerouted to the West Coast? Well, the West Coast is going to get backed up and things are going to get more expensive and it's going to be less efficient. All of this is going to trickle down into perhaps shortage of supply and increased prices for us in the stores.
And here's what I think is going to be so fucking funny about this, is that when the stores increase the prices for the dock workers strike, and they say that, and people are like, okay, and they're mad at the dock workers, eventually the dock worker strike will be resolved or it will end in one way or another. And do you want to know what's going to happen when the dock worker strike ends? The prices aren't going to go back down. This is the welcome to the new normal.
It could ultimately significantly disrupt the U.S. supply chain, right? Shortages, delays in deliveries, rising prices, etc. So we should be paying attention to this and what's happening, guys. So, guys, I pulled up a quick article I want to talk about real quick. This article actually came out yesterday. It says dock workers may have the negotiating advantage in the strike against U.S. ports. And I'll just kind of go through a little bit of this, guys, and talk about it. The 45,000 dock workers who went on strike yesterday for the first time in decades at 36 U.S. ports from Maine to Texas may have the upper hand in the standoff with port operators. Now, there's several reasons why they may have the upper hand. We'll see, right? But organized labor enjoys basically rising support and has had a string of recent victories in other industries, in addition to being kind of backed by what's considered to be a pro-union presidential administration.
I think that the public support will go away the moment that the public has to actually support it. People are, of course, willing to say, yeah, you deserve to be paid more money. But whenever that you deserve to be paid more money means that they have to pay more money, and then the person who's being paid more money is making $200,000 a year, because again, whether you think this is fair or not, this is what the media is showing people. This is what people's understanding is. This is what's written in articles. People are going to immediately say, fuck you. They're going to be mad. Yeah, it's it's understandable. I don't agree with it, but it's understandable.
Joe Biden, right, has kind of given kind of lip service as sort of backing and being pro-union in the past. Now, when I asked about this a couple of days ago, the president actually came out and said, no, we're not going to do anything about it at this time. But the president has the ability to step in. We'll talk about that. I think this article mentions that later. The dock workers' negotiating stand is likely further strengthened by the nation's supply chain of goods being under pressure in the aftermath of the hurricane that happened recently along the East Coast there. The union is also pointing to shipping companies' record profits. So the union is also saying, hey, look, the shipping companies themselves are making some incredible profit. Now, this profit has come basically because of shortages that resulted back a couple of years ago because of the pandemic that's still sort of lingering on. They're also pointing to a more generous contract that the West Coast dock workers achieved just last year. So the longshoremen workloads also have increased, and the effects of inflation have sort of eroded their pay. That's why they want more pay. It also says,
and this has happened, and the problem is, like, this has happened to everybody. This is the thing, is like this. It's not like this is some kind of like special thing that they're dealing with. This has happened to everyone. And I think that it's been very common that companies have recorded record profits and then people either get laid off or they certainly don't get paid more.
Article. In addition, commerce in and out of the U.S. has been growing, playing into the union's advantage, and also further enhancing its leverage is still a tight job market, with workers in some industries demanding and in some cases receiving a larger share of companies' outsized profits, which is what the longshoremen union is wanting right now. Now, the article goes on to say, I think this work group has a lot of bargaining power, said Harry Katz, who's a professor of collective bargaining, because obviously this is a CBA issue, collective bargaining agreement issue that needs to be hashed out and worked out. The dockworker strike, which is their first since 1977, could snarl supply chains and cause shortages and higher prices if it stretches on for more than a few weeks. That means higher prices for us. And this is why we have to pay attention. It goes on to say that experts say consumers won't likely notice a shortage for at least...
Somebody says, imagine complaining about making 6 figures and throwing a tantrum that creates inflation for everyone. Here's the problem, though, is that a lot of the guys that are making a lot of that money, the reason why they're making a lot of that money is they're working more than a person would at an average job. So, like, if you make $80,000 a year and another guy makes $160,000 a year and you're doing the same job, that's not fair, right? But if you're working 40 hours a week and he works 80 hours a week, then it is fair, because you need to look at the amount of money they're getting per hour and how much work they're actually doing. I mean, let's be real. Yeah, risk to health is a big factor too. Yeah, and also, like, this isn't like a desk job. I mean, I don't think that, like, this is like a life and death job, like working on an oil rig or being in the military, but it's certainly not as safe as working at an accounting office either. Yeah, it's a physical job, and I bet it probably fucks you up in a lot of ways. Yeah. These contractors are done on a 40-hour week. The lowest level employees making $39 an hour. The lowest level employees making $39 an hour at top step. Yeah, but, like, that's going to take them a while to get to, etc. Also, like you said, Western ports were able to make an agreement, so why wouldn't these workers make the same? Yeah.
A few weeks, but that's just a few weeks. This is so big and so massive, guys, and this is why we got to pay attention to it, because it just takes a couple of weeks of this strike to last before we may start seeing an increase in prices and a shortage of some of the supplies of things that we normally take for granted and go buy at the store, grocery store, etc. It says some perishable items such as bananas could disappear from grocery stores, although at this time of the year, most other fruits and vegetables in America are domestically grown and not processed at ports. So it says in anticipation of the strike, this is a good thing here. Most major retailers also stocked up on goods, moving ahead shipments of holiday gift items, etc. So some retailers have sort of prepared for this thing, right? Not all, but some have. The strike coming weeks before a tight presidential election could also become a factor in the presidential race if shortages begin to affect many voters. So
that's a very good point. Yeah, he's right about that, because, like, in the same way that I think people held COVID against Donald Trump, I think that if this strike is going on and people don't get the stuff that they want, they'll hold that against, like, Kamala Harris and Biden. Absolutely. I don't think it'll be as damaging because, like, Biden's the president, so people are really going to blame him, and Kamala Harris is the one running. So I don't think it's going to be, like, as bad as COVID. It's not going to be nearly as bad. But, like, I do think that sentiment will be there, for sure.
The pressure could eventually grow for the president to step in and intervene to try to force a temporary suspension of a strike.
Yeah.
So you guys know, when it comes to the ports, the president has the ability to step in. It says in early picketing, workers outside the Port of Philadelphia walked in a circle and chanted, "No work without a fair contract." The union message boards on the side of a truck reading, "Automation hurts families," right? So this quick little map right here shows you the ports that are impacted from this particular strikes. And again, all the way up from Maine, near Maine, all the way around to Texas, guys, as you can see on this particular map. So all of these ports are ports that take in imports into America, and from there, they're shipped out to the retail stores all across America. That's who who's actually striking at this particular time. Now, it goes on to say, and I want to hit this point, that the president of the United States could actually go in and force workers back to work under what's called the Taft-Hartley Act.
He's not going to do that. They're not going to do that because that'd alienate a lot of people that are in like their like. There's no way a sitting Democrat politician is going to force people back to work. I don't see that happening. Yeah, Brandon's fairly pro-union. I don't see it happening. They'll lose votes.
Says, under the Taft-Hartley Act, President Biden could seek a court order for an 80-day cooling off period that would end
Biden's
the
broken strikes before, yeah, but not right before a fucking election. That's the point. Like, yeah, sure, halfway through his term, sure, but like not now.
Like at least temporarily. But he has told reporters, like I mentioned earlier, just a couple of days ago, that he wouldn't take that step. Now, President Biden could obviously risk losing that union support if it went in and exercised its ability to enact this Taft-Hartley Act where the president can step in. If the president steps in just weeks before a major presidential election, that's going to cause an issue because now you have all these union workers that are forced to go back to work because of what the president did. Of course, the president would lose support from union people and people that are on these picket lines. So it becomes kind of a political thing as well, right? Just ahead of the election.
Yeah, it would look bad if they did that, I think.
It's coming up. It said yesterday the White House continued to ask the alliance to negotiate a fair contract that reflects the longshoremen's contribution to the economy. Now, all this not to mention, guys, the recent Hurricane Helene that just came through the East Coast. It says, as our nation climbs out of the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, Biden said in a statement, dock workers will play an essential role in getting communities the resources they need. Now is not the time for ocean carriers to refuse to negotiate a fair wage for these essential workers while raking in record profits. Ben Nolan.
So Biden wants them to come to terms and give the dock workers more money. Honestly, I agree with him. I think he's right. Yeah, I think he's right. Absolutely.
Transportation analyst with Stifel said the administration isn't likely to intervene until consumers start to see empty shelves or can't find critical goods like medicines. Medications and other things come in on containers, Nolan said. I think if the administration wanted to have a reason to get involved, it's stuff like that. So this is huge, guys. Very, very big thing happening here. Could the president intervene? Yes. Could the president turn around and face some backlash from union workers that will be forced to go back to work? Yes. So our job as consumers, guys, is to pay close attention. The bottom line with this strike is this. The strike blocks everything from food to automobile shipments to nails to medication across dozens of ports from Maine to Texas from entering into our country and being processed and then shipped on. Of course, there's been some preparation by some retailers. Of course, they could go around the ports and go all the way to the West Coast and drop off goods there. But of course, that's more inconvenient, less efficient, will cause backups on the West Coast,
it's going to cause
and will
the prices to go up,
just weeks from now, not very long, trickle down to us and cause perhaps some shortages and perhaps higher prices. My personal opinion, I don't think the president will allow that to go on. I don't think he'll allow it to go on.
I don't think so. I feel like, honestly, this is what I hope happens. My opinion of this, I think that they should give them more money, and I don't think that the dock workers should be able to stop automation. I think that's unfair. I think they should 100% be paid more money, especially like, oh, you're getting record profits and our money's staying the same. What the fuck, right? That's not fair.
Because we are smack dab in the middle towards the end of a presidential campaign or a presidential race. But at the same time, it's going to be dicey if he decides to step in and intervene. But this disruption could cost the economy in America billions of dollars per day if this thing continues to go on. It could ultimately, let's say this thing goes on.
And also, like, automation in like ports like this isn't like a concept. Places in China already do this. And places like in like, I don't know if it's actually in China whenever I saw the video, but like there were places that had like machines, right? You're using basically an Xbox controller, right? Maybe probably not, but like something like that, just moving the machines around.
for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month, 2
Fully
months.
automated?
This
Yeah.
thing could ultimately hurt
So it's not
jobs.
like this is like a far
It could
off
also threaten
That's
to
what I'm saying.
increase inflation, of course, increasing the price of goods and services, cause shortages, and cause a major impact to regular, everyday American consumers. That's
which that functions as inflation. Like it's not like economic inflation of the value of a dollar, like directly, but it's indirectly. Like if your dollar can't buy as many bananas, does it really matter because it's from the Federal Reserve or because of the company or because of the longshoremen? You don't really care. It's just the banana costs more money.
I wanted to do this video so you guys are aware of what's going on. This is my warning. Massive dock workers port strike will affect you if it continues. All right, so pay close attention to what's going on, guys. Listen, drop me a comment below and let me know what you think about this strike that's going on. How will it eventually end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys, and I'll keep you updated on this channel. The best person to take care of the old you is the young you. Guys, take good care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.
That's crazy. How it's actually crazy. People, so many people use that as an outro. The peace thing. Yeah, I didn't realize it was so common. But yeah, this is a good video. I agree with pretty much everything he was saying in the video. Well, the one thing I don't think Biden is going to try to break the strike. I really don't think so. And I think that if he does try to break the strike, he won't do it autocratically by like the Taft-Hartley Act. I think he'll probably just try to get them to like agree to something temporarily until like probably the election is over so he can, you know, like not have to deal with it. Yeah, well, I'll buy cheap shit from overseas. We pay prices like this or supply issues could have purchased domestically. I think really, I think really what happens is that you have people that, well, I mean, I think if you take a step back, the big problem is that a lot of the way that people see this problem is through the lens that the media portrays it. And I think that the lens that the media is like showing things is very problematic. I feel like it's extremely problematic to the average person because the average person feels like, wow, these guys are making all this money and, you know, they want more money. It's not fair. And again, I think that it isn't fair, but in the same way, it's not fair to the person who's saying that either. When they work at, let's say, like Walmart, they literally are. But like, you realize it's an oversimplification, right? Like, it's a massive oversimplification if you say that these guys are making $200,000 a year. That's like saying a person who works 2 jobs is in a better spot than a person who works 1 job, and they shouldn't complain about having to work 2 jobs because they're making more money. They're working more, so they're getting paid more. Fucking duh. Like, you want to look at the hourly rate, how much are they making per hour, and what that is. It's the middle class stealing from the poor. That's how people are seeing it. Yeah, I don't know why people aren't seeing it this way. Automation creates jobs, higher technical jobs. Here's the problem. I think a lot of people whose job it is to pick something up and then put it somewhere else, I bet some of those guys are dumb. And I bet they're not going to be able to figure out how to learn high technical jobs. I'll just say it. It's grunt work, yeah. Like, you cannot convert a bunch of guys whose job it is to pick something big up and move it somewhere else. You cannot at a 100% rate. Some of them, sure. At a 100% rate, or even probably a high rate, transfer all of them to high technical level jobs. You can't make everybody smart. It's not going to happen. Yeah, it's grunt work, but it can be streamlined and not replace people. Why is it bad that it replaces people? So if the job is dangerous, if it causes physical bodily harm to somebody for doing it for long periods of time, and it's physically demanding, and it's inefficient, why do we have it? Why? It's crazy. Like, it's so regressive. Very good point. Yeah, I don't understand. Because we live in a society. Yeah, I guess so. That's the point of automation. Yeah, a lot of the reason why, like, I mean, these jobs are not like these great, amazing jobs in a lot of cases. They are hard. They are rough jobs. People need money. It's not the company's responsibility. When you need money, you're not going to go complain to like Walmart, right? I mean, this is my opinion, okay? The government is responsible for taking care of its people. The companies are responsible for creating a product. Companies are not responsible for taking care of people other than effectively paying the people what they deserve. A company does not exist to provide welfare to the public. That's not the point. Like, and I think you want to know a really, really good example of that is Steam. Steam has so few employees. Is Steam morally wrong and morally worse than, let's say, Facebook or Twitter pre-Elon Musk because Steam doesn't have as many people doing the same job over and over? Of course not. That's like such an outrageously stupid thing to say. That this is like, so like it's the more people you employ, the more morally good what you're doing. Like it's insane. Would you be okay with the government forcing companies to have human employees? Absolutely not. I think it's regressive. It's insanely regressive. You're basically forcing inefficiency. You're mandating inefficiency. Absolutely not. Let me see if there's anything else here that's worth looking at. Massive inflation, panic buying, yeah, everything, right? So everybody's being super negative about this and making these guys look bad. And I think that, again, this is a coordinated effort from the singular monetary ruling class that stands to lose money and have themselves, like, lose money, basically, right? And have themselves be put at risk. I think this is an unironic, like, mask-off moment for that. And I think, again, you can look at the reporting for it and see how the reporting is completely one-sided about criticizing the dock workers for things that are very legitimate, by the way, but also the way that they're presented. Like the dock workers, who many of which make over $200,000 a year, right? Like, it's just the way that you introduce a person matters. You're trying to get people to have a certain opinion. You think the gold chain guy there was posted on purpose? I thought about that. I was thinking about talking about that, but like, and talking that out, but I don't think so. I feel like that's not the case. I don't fully view it. The company should pay more. It's a genuinely good gesture or beneficial to both parties to increase wage if there's an increase in profit. But if the company loses, they can't reduce the wage. Or if the company goes bankrupt, it's the company that takes most of the risk, right? I think it is. And like, you're right about that, that obviously, like, yeah, it's harder to reduce wages. But at the same time, like, this has been going on for multiple years at a certain point. My resolution? I think that... I don't know. I mean, like, number one, what the fuck do I know? Okay, let's get that out of the way. Number two, maybe it would be a good idea to give them a pay raise and ensure that any of them will, if they want to be replaced by automation, if they like, basically ensure training for everybody who's currently there and ensure them a job in facilitating a transition to automation. Because I can't imagine a world where you don't have automation. Like, there's already places that have that. Yeah, it's that simple. Yeah, I feel like that's the right idea. Yeah, it'd be good. Exactly. I think that's what to do. I'm not even really sure. China does it? Maybe. That's where they offer 50%. That's my best guess.